Hello, welcome to the next session on the CBSE NET Paper 1 examination. We would be covering the next set of 15 questions for the Paper 1. In the previous section, we have already seen that the questions were mainly based on computers and current affairs. In this section, the main focus of the question would be on teaching and research aptitude and the questions on political science. So let's start with the first question here. The first question is, the right to privacy as a fundamental right is implied in. Now you have a set of choices that is given in this, okay? Right to privacy was included under Article 21 of the Constitution, and this Article 21 talks about life and personal liberty, okay? So this Article 21 that focuses basically on protection of life and personal liberty says that no person would be deprived of his personal liberty except in the cases or the procedures done by law. Okay, the main laws or rights that are covered are under this are right to privacy. Okay, then you have right to go abroad, right against handcuffing, right to shelter, doctor's assistance, right against public hanging, right against delayed execution. So all these are part of right to life and personal liberty, and these are covered, including the right to privacy, which is covered under right to life and personal liberty. The next question talks about which of the following organizations deals with capacity building programs on educational planning. NUEPA, which is known as the National University for Education Planning and Administration, located in New Delhi, has a department for training and capacity building in education. And this is the body that basically works with the capacity building programs on educational planning. So the correct answer here would be the National University for Education Planning and Administration. The next question is, which of the following powers the president has in relation to Lok Sabha? Now there are 4 things that are given, and there are choices that are given based on these 4 terms. Now President of India has the right to summon and prorogue both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, and it has the power to dissolve Lok Sabha. Okay, adjournment sine die is adjourning the Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha for a indefinite time period, and that power lies with the speaker and not with the president. So the correct answer here would be 1, 3, and 4, that is summoning, prorogation, and dissolution. So the only choice that has these 3 answers are choice C. Okay, this is again a very direct question from political science. The next question is, the interval between 2 sessions of the parliament must not exceed. As per the constitution, the 2 sessions of the parliament, okay, the interval should not exceed 6 months when the body is live and functional. It's not applicable in the case if the body is dissolved. Okay, only when the body is live and functional, the interval between 2 sessions of the parliament should not exceed 6 months. Another thing, in 1 year, there should be at least 2 sessions that are conducted. Okay, and the time period of 6 months is between the date of prorogation of one and commencement of the next. So the date where one ends and next starts, that time gap should not exceed more than 6 months. So the correct answer here is 6 months. Next question is, maximum participation of students during teaching is possible through. Now let's first understand all the 4 terms. Textbook teaching is basically when I'm using a textbook and teaching whatever is written in the textbook. Lecture method is, it's more of a kind of one-way communication where I'm giving a constant lecture and the students are listening to it. Demonstration is by means of experiments. or use of some devices to explain a concept. But what is inductive method of uh, teaching? Inductive method of teaching is basically when I'm trying to give examples, okay, and from those examples you are trying to generalize the concept. So it's basically from a specific to generalized form, and this involves maximum student participation. Now, how I can explain that? So inductive teaching begins with examples, okay, and it proceeds in a guided manner. So I'm giving an example and then I'm trying to explain that example, and based on that explanation, I'm trying to generalize certain concept. So that process involves maximum participation, where I'm trying to involve faculty and the students as well. Okay, so this is what is the inductive method, and out of these four, only inductive method is the one that requires maximum student participation. Now, what is diagnostic evaluation? If I want to start a new course or a new subject into my curriculum, what will I do? I'll first try to do a diagnostic evaluation, okay? And this diagnostic evaluation is done at the beginning. Before I introduce the course or before I start with the course, I'll try to evaluate whether the students I'm going to introduce that course to are really meant for it, okay? Or do they have such a basic understanding of the concept? So that is what is diagnostic evaluation. So you are trying to assess the students' performance at the beginning of the instruction. So the only term beginning is here, and that gives you the complete sense of diagnostic evaluation. So the correct answer is A, that is students' performance at the beginning of the instruction. The next question is again based on teaching research aptitude. Instructional aids are used by teacher too. Now, before we see why they are used by teacher, let's understand what are instructional aids. So anything that helps you to that is kind of supporting mechanism to explain a topic. So for example, if I'm using an audio visual device, okay, I'm using projectors, I'm using a video, I'm using camera, okay, or any other toys to demonstrate a concept. What I'm trying to do is I'm using instructional aids, and these instructional aids are supporting me to explain a concept, so it helps in further clarification of the concept. So the correct answer here is to clarify the concept. Now, some of the students can say a teacher is using just to make the students attract to the class or to make the class much more glorified. But that's not the correct reason why you are using instructional aid. The main purpose behind using any instructional aid is to clarify the concept or to develop better understanding of the students towards that concept. The next question is, attitude of the teacher that affects teaching pertains to. Now this question is a very, very important question, because here what is asked is, you are trying to understand a teacher's attitude about his or her own teaching mechanism. Okay, so cognition basically deals with understanding, and understanding deals with knowledge. So this is not the correct answer. Then you have psychomotor domains that deals with physical movements. Okay, that is also not the correct answer. Then cognitive domain basically deals with your actions. That's also not a kind of correct answer here. The correct answer here would be affective domain. And why the answer would be affective domain? The main reason behind this is, under affective domain, what you try to do is you try to identify, understand, and address how people learn. Okay, so how teaching is affected. Okay, you are identifying it, understanding it, and analyzing it, and that function falls under the domain of affective domain. The next question is a very direct question and a saying of Swami Vivekananda that education is a manifestation of perfection already in man. And this saying recently became very popular during the Teachers' Day celebration. Okay, so this is a kind of question that is based on teaching but has an element of current affairs. Okay. So you have education is the manifestation of perfection already in the man is a very famous saying given by Swami Vivekananda. It's a very direct question. Now, to understand question number 25, let's go back to question number 24. Education is a manifestation of perfection already in the man. Now, if I am giving you the answer Swami Vivekananda, what I am expecting out of you is you are just cramming it or you must just know it. Okay. So that is where we try to understand the levels of teaching. Now, levels of teaching are explained as 3 levels. You have memory, understanding, and reflective. Memory is just cramming the concept as I talked about in question number 25. So that's what is a memory level of teaching. For understanding level of teaching, you need the memory level, that is basic cramming. Along with that, understanding the concept. For example, if I say to you that 2 plus 4 is 6, now you will understand that when I am joining 2 numbers, I am getting a third number and this number is bigger than the remaining 2 numbers. So I am following the general rules of addition. So a student who has understand this would be able to answer this for any a plus b. If I give you any number that is a plus b, he'll be able to find out the addition for that number. Okay. The next is the reflective level. The reflective level is the most important or the critical level of understanding. This involves memory plus understanding. So you have memory plus understanding in this level. And under reflective element, if I tell you 2 plus 4 is 6, you'll be able to understand that when you are adding 2 numbers, you are getting a third number that is bigger than that. But besides that, what a student will understand is that if I have a number 6, I can break it into 2 small numbers, that is 2 and 4, or I can break it into 3 small numbers, that is 2 plus 2 plus 2, and all of these will give me the answer as 6. Okay, so that is what is the reflective or critical level of understanding, which is aided by means of examples. Okay, so the correct answer here is which of the following is not a prescribed level of teaching. So you have memory, understanding, and reflection as a prescribed level of teaching. So the answer here would be D, that is differentiation. So differentiation is a method by which you demarcate two students or 2 levels. For example, if I am conducting an exam, okay, there are 20 students in the examination and all of them are getting different marks. So I can differentiate the students. These are the students who are getting above 50% marks and these are the students who are getting below 50% marks. Okay, so that is what is differentiation. Now the next question is core elements of dissertation are. Dissertation or thesis is a part of any research work. Okay, and the examiner here asks about only the core levels or the core elements of dissertation. Now data collection and data analysis are definitely element of dissertation, but not in all classes, not in all cases. If I'm doing a very kind of theoretical research, there is no element of data collection and analysis. So they are not the core elements. Okay, so 1 cannot be the answer, B cannot be the answer, and C cannot be the answer. So the only answer here can be D. Introduction literature review would be required in all dissertations, be it theoretical, be it applicative or practical dissertations. Then you will need to have, you will need to define your research questions and propound a methodology. You will have certain results which you will be discussing and you will be writing a conclusion based on that result. So D is the correct answer here. The core elements of dissertation or any thesis or research work includes introduction, then review of available literature. Based on that, you will be framing your research questions and giving a methodology. You'll be deriving up some results. You will be discussing those results, and finally, you will be giving the conclusions based on those research. The next question is, what is a research design? Now, this is a very important question, or I should say the foundation is stone for any research. Research design is a way of systematically planning a scientific problem. So if I have any scientific problem, okay, I'll try to give a systematic plan for that. And that systematic plan is known as research design. Okay, so this includes the study type, research questions, you'll have hypothesis variables, you'll have the experimental design, the available data, and the plan for it. So of the four choices, if you see those properly, choice between quantitative or qualitative method cannot be the answer. The style of presentation is not the answer. Okay, the way of conducting the research that is not grounded in the theory cannot be the answer, because you must have the foundations or the basis for your research. And finally, a framework for every stage of collection and analysis of data would be the correct answer here, because that is a systematic plan where you are trying to give your research design. The next question is sampling cases means. Now, this is a very kind of dicey question, because this question is not just talking about sampling, it's talking about sampling cases. There is a very slight or borderline difference between these two terminology. So let's first understand the terminologies. Sampling is basically having a set of data, a set of individuals from the total population. Okay, and that is a sample, or I'll say sampling. So for example, if I want to conduct a survey on the availability of water in the city of Delhi, I would be conducting samples. Okay, now those samples would be from different localities. Okay, so that's what is sampling. Now, what are sample cases? When I'm trying to use sample cases, I'll try to make sure that I'm covering each and every important parameter that is applicable for this purpose. What does that include? So I'll be covering each and every locality. The localities that are rich or have adequate supply of water. Okay, the localities that are not rich, or I could say the slums of the region. Okay, that do not have adequate supply of water. Okay, that would be my first criteria. Then I'll be covering all the localities which would be lying in the suburban zone. Okay, so I'll be covering all the possible parameters to study the availability of water. I'll be covering the level of groundwater. I'll be covering the level of the amount of lakes or ponds in the locality. Okay, availability of water by other sources. So that is what is sample cases. So sample cases is basically identifying people who are suitable for research. It's usually applicable for people. I can say items also, but I am using all those variables which are suitable for research. And though that suitability I'm trying to demarcate through various means. And that is what is a sample case. Okay, so the correct answer here would be B. Sampling cases means identifying people who are suitable for research. So if I'm conducting, say, how many people are susceptible to throat infection in early ages. Okay, so what I will do is I'll be conducting a study where I'll be taking the total number of total samples, which would be gender unbiased. So I'll be taking male samples, female samples, then I'll be taking samples from the age group 0 to 1, 1 to 2, then 2 to 3, and so on. Okay, so I'm taking sample cases from considering various parameters. Okay, so I'm identifying people who are suitable for research by clubbing them into various sections, and I'm seeing that none of the section is remaining untouched. The next question is frequency distribution of a research data which is symmetrical in nature, similar to a normal distribution, but the center peak is much higher is. Now, in this question, you have a normal distribution curve, okay, and then you have three curves like this, okay. So the first curve here, which is much more flat, is known as platycrotic. The middle one is known as mesocrotic, and the topmost is known as leptocrotic. So a distribution curve which has a center peak which is much higher, the correct answer would be leptocrotic. So with this diagram itself, we can see what is platycrotic, leptocrotic, and mesocrotic, or we can understand the concept of kurtosis. And skewness is the deviation from the normal to the either the left or the right. So that is what is a kind of skewed behavior. So it's not talking about how high the center peak is. So the height of the center peak is talked about only in kurtosis, and that the highest is in lepto and the lowest is in platy. So if it was asked for the lowest peak, the answer would be platycrotic, and if it is asked for highest peak, the answer would be leptocrotic. Now then the final question for today's session would be, when planning to do a social research, it's better to. Now, before I try to explain this question, let's understand, if I'm a researcher and I'm initiating a research, okay, what would I do? Forget about the theory, because this is very practical, is incorrect, because to do anything practical, you must have solid foundations besides those, okay? So D cannot be the answer, okay? Now I'll say do a pilot study before getting stuck into it. To do a pilot study, I must have a plan or a research design with me, okay? So this again cannot be the answer. Now, in this question, most of the students got confused between choice A and C. Choice C says to be familiar with literature on the topic. That is very essential. I must have a basic knowledge of something on the topic before I start doing a research on that topic. And approaching the topic with an open mind is also a correct option. But what is important here is, even if I am approaching a topic with an open mind, but I do not have sufficient data on it, can I do a research? Okay, I cannot do a research just because I have an open mind towards that topic. I have 10 topics with me, okay, and I have open mind towards all those 10 topics. But I cannot do research on all those 10 topics. I can do research only on one topic which is familiar to me, or I should say on which I have strong foundation. And that foundation comes through only when you have sufficient familiarity with the literature, or I have read a lot about it. So familiarity with the literature on a topic is the most essential thing before you start to do a planning on a social science, before you start to plan a research on any subject. Okay, so the correct answer here would be C, that is familiarity with the literature on the topic. That is the most essential key element for planning in a social science research. So with this, we covered the next set of 15 questions. We'll be covering the next two set of questions in the remaining classes. As we can see, these two sessions mainly dealt with the concepts on teaching and research aptitude. We covered the political science section, the environmental science section, and the current affairs section that was asked in the 2014 paper 1 examination, which was mainly from the month of September and October. So we can clearly make out for the December examination, the most important current affairs is from the month of September and October. And for the June examination, the most important current affairs are from the months of March and April. Okay, we'll be discussing and analyzing the further questions in the paper. Till then, have a good day ahead.